Sarah Chen looked out of her spaceship's window. The stars twinkled like diamonds on black velvet. She was alone in the vastness of space, and she loved it. At 28, she was the youngest solo explorer from Earth. Her mission was simple: find new planets for humans to live on. Sarah's ship, the Stardust, was small but fast. It had been her home for the past 6 months. She missed Earth sometimes, but the thrill of discovery kept her going. Today, she was excited. Her scanners had picked up a new solar system nearby. As Sarah steered the Stardust towards the unknown system, she didn't notice the small objects on her radar. They were asteroids, hundreds of them, hidden by the light of a nearby star. By the time she saw them, it was too late. "Oh no!" Sarah yelled as the first asteroid hit the Stardust. The ship shook violently. Red lights flashed, and alarms blared. Sarah's hands flew over the controls, trying to dodge the space rocks. But there were too many. Thud. Crash. Bang. More asteroids slammed into the ship. Sparks flew from the control panel. The Stardust spun out of control, hurtling towards an unknown planet. "Mayday! Mayday!" Sarah shouted into her radio. But she was too far from Earth. No one could hear her. She was on her own. The planet grew larger in her window. It was big and blue, with swirling white clouds. In any other situation, Sarah would have been thrilled to discover it. Now, she was terrified. The Stardust entered the planet's atmosphere. Fire engulfed the ship as it fell. The heat was intense. Sweat poured down Sarah's face as she fought with the controls. She had one chance to land safely. With all her strength, Sarah pulled up on the steering wheel. The ship's nose lifted slightly. It was enough. Instead of crashing straight down, the Stardust skimmed across the planet's surface like a stone on water. Boom! The ship hit the ground hard. Sarah's head slammed against the control panel. Everything went black. When Sarah woke up, her head was pounding. She blinked, trying to focus. The inside of the Stardust was a mess. Wires hung from the ceiling. Broken glass was everywhere, but she was alive. Sarah unbuckled her seatbelt with shaky hands. She stood up slowly, wincing at the pain in her body. The ship's door was jammed, but she managed to force it open. Fresh air rushed in. Sarah took a deep breath. It smelled strange, but it was breathable. She stepped out of the ship on wobbly legs. The sight that greeted her was breathtaking. She stood in a clearing surrounded by towering trees with purple leaves. The sky was a pale green, with 2 suns shining brightly. In the distance, mountains floated in the air, defying gravity. "Wow," Sarah whispered. Despite her situation, she couldn't help but feel amazed. She had done it. She had discovered a new planet. But her wonder quickly turned to worry. The Stardust was badly damaged. Her communication systems were down. She had no way to contact Earth or call for help. She was stranded on this alien world. Sarah's survival training kicked in. First, she needed to find water and food. Then, she would try to fix her ship. She grabbed her emergency backpack from the Stardust and set out to explore. As she walked through the alien forest, Sarah felt like she was in a dream. The plants were like nothing she had ever seen. Some had leaves that glowed softly. Others moved, following her with unseen eyes. Suddenly, Sarah froze. She heard a sound. It was low and rumbling, like distant thunder, but it wasn't coming from the sky. It was coming from behind her. Slowly, Sarah turned around. Her eyes widened in shock and fear. Standing at the edge of the clearing was a creature straight out of a nightmare. It was huge, easily 3 times her size. Its body was covered in shimmering scales. 6 legs ended in razor-sharp claws. Its head was massive, with rows of teeth as long as Sarah's arm. The creature's eyes locked onto Sarah. They were intelligent eyes, filled with curiosity and hunger. Sarah realized with a chill that she was face to face with the galaxy's deadliest predator, and she was its prey. In that moment, Sarah Chen, the brave explorer from Earth, understood the true meaning of being alone in the universe. Her adventure was just beginning, and it would change the galaxy forever. Sarah's heart raced as she stared at the massive alien predator. Its scales shimmered in the light of the two suns. The creature's 6 powerful legs tensed, ready to pounce. Sarah knew she couldn't outrun it. She had to think fast. The predator took a step forward. Its claws dug into the soft purple grass. Sarah's mind raced through her survival training. What did she have that could help her? She slowly reached into her backpack, never taking her eyes off the creature. Her hand closed around a small device. It was her emergency flare gun. Sarah had an idea. The predator growled, a low rumble that Sarah felt in her bones. It crouched, ready to attack. Sarah's fingers tightened on the flare gun. Just as the creature leaped, Sarah pointed the gun straight up and fired. A bright red flare shot into the green sky with a loud whistle. The sudden noise and light startled the predator. It stumbled mid-jump, landing off balance. Sarah used this moment of confusion to dive behind a large rock. From her hiding spot, Sarah watched the predator. To her surprise, it wasn't attacking. Instead, it was staring at the sky, following the flare with its eyes. It looked curious. Sarah's scientific mind kicked in. This wasn't just a mindless beast. It was intelligent. It was learning. Slowly, Sarah stepped out from behind the rock. The predator's eyes snapped back to her, but this time, it didn't look ready to attack. It looked interested. Sarah took a deep breath. She was about to do something either very brave or very stupid. She held up the flare gun where the predator could see it. "You want to know how it works?" she asked, her voice shaking slightly. The predator tilted its massive head. It took a step closer, but not in a threatening way. Sarah's heart pounded as she carefully opened the flare gun. "See, it's just a simple machine," she explained, showing the inner workings. "It uses a small explosion to launch the flare. That's what made the loud noise." To Sarah's amazement, the predator lowered its head to look closely at the gun. Its hot breath ruffled her hair, but it didn't try to eat her. Sarah couldn't believe it. She was teaching an alien. Encouraged, Sarah reached into her backpack again. This time, she pulled out a small tablet computer. The predator's eyes widened at the glowing screen. "This is how we store information," Sarah said. She tapped the screen, bringing up a star map. "See, this is where I came from. Earth. And this," she zoomed in on a small dot, "this must be your planet." The predator made a low rumbling sound. Was it trying to communicate? Sarah wished she could understand it. For the next hour, Sarah showed the predator different items from her backpack. She demonstrated her water purifier, her multi-tool, and even shared some of her emergency rations. The predator watched everything with intelligent eyes, sometimes reaching out with a careful claw to touch the strange objects. As the suns began to set, casting a beautiful orange glow over the landscape, Sarah realized something amazing had happened. She had made first contact with an alien species, and not just any species, but one that everyone thought was only a mindless killer. The predator seemed to sense the changing light. It looked at the sky, then back at Sarah. To her surprise, it gestured with its head towards the forest. Did it want her to follow? Sarah hesitated. Following a giant alien predator into a dark forest didn't seem like a good idea. But then again, nothing about this situation was normal, and she needed shelter for the night. "Okay," Sarah said, packing up her things. "I'll follow you, but no eating me deal." The predator made a sound that almost seemed like a laugh. It waited for Sarah to stand up, then started walking into the forest. Sarah took a deep breath and followed. As they walked, Sarah's mind was full of questions. How intelligent was this creature? Could they learn to communicate? And what would the rest of the galaxy think when they found out that humans had befriended the deadliest predator known to alien kind? One thing was clear. Sarah Chen's mission had changed. She was no longer just exploring new planets. She was bridging the gap between species. And as she followed her new alien friend deeper into the forest, She knew that the adventure was just beginning. The stars began to appear in the alien sky. Somewhere up there, Earth was waiting for news. Sarah smiled to herself. What a story she would have to tell when she got home. As Sarah followed the alien predator through the forest, she realized she needed a name for her new companion. "I think I'll call you Zax," she said out loud. The creature turned its massive head and made a low rumbling sound. Sarah took that as approval. Zax led Sarah to a large cave hidden behind a waterfall. The cave was dry and warm, a perfect shelter. Sarah was amazed at Zax's intelligence. It wasn't just a predator. It was a thinking, feeling being. Over the next few days, Sarah and Zax fell into a strange routine. In the mornings, Zax would bring Sarah strange fruits to eat. Sarah would use her tablet to analyze them, making sure they were safe. In return, she shared her knowledge with Zax. Sarah used drawings in the dirt to teach Zax about Earth and human technology. Zax was a quick learner. It soon understood basic math and even tried to draw its own planet. One day, while exploring the area around the cave, Sarah and Zax came across a cliff. Sarah looked down and gulped. It was a long way down. Suddenly, she had an idea. "Hey Zax, want to see something cool?" Sarah asked. She took out a long rope from her backpack. Zax watched curiously as Sarah tied the rope to a strong tree. Sarah then showed Zax how to rappel down the cliff. Zax's eyes widened as Sarah safely descended to a ledge below. When Sarah climbed back up, Zax made excited noises and pointed at the rope with its claw. "You want to try?" Sarah asked, surprised. She wasn't sure how to rig the rope for a creature Zax's size. But Zax had other ideas. To Sarah's amazement, Zax began to climb down the cliff face using only its claws. It moved with incredible grace and strength. When it reached the ledge, it looked up at Sarah as if to say, "Your turn." Sarah laughed. Okay, you win this round." She rappelled down to join Zax on the ledge. From there, they had a breathtaking view of the alien landscape. As days turned into weeks, Sarah and Zax's bond grew stronger. They learned from each other constantly. Zax showed Sarah how to move silently through the forest, how to find water in unexpected places, and how to sense danger before it appeared. In return, Sarah taught Zax about the stars, about human customs, and even tried to teach it some English words. Zax couldn't speak, but it learned to understand many of Sarah's commands. One night, as they sat at the mouth of their cave watching the alien moons rise, Sarah felt a pang of sadness. She missed Earth, her family, her mission, but at the same time, she had discovered something incredible here. Sarah turned to Zax. "You know, on my planet, people would be terrified of you. They think creatures like you are just mindless killers. But you're so much more than that. You're my friend." Zax nudged Sarah gently with its head, a gesture Sarah had come to recognize as affection. Suddenly, a bright light flashed in the sky. Sarah jumped to her feet. It was a spaceship. Her heart raced. Had Earth sent a rescue mission? But as the ship got closer, Sarah realized it wasn't from Earth. Its design was completely alien. Zax growled, sensing Sarah's unease. The ship landed in a clearing not far from their cave. Sarah and Zax watched as a group of strange, tall aliens emerge. They looked around, clearly searching for something, or someone. With a jolt, Sarah realized they must be looking for her. Her crash must have been detected. But were these aliens friends or foes? Sarah looked at Zax, then back at the aliens. She had a decision to make. Should she reveal herself, or should she and Zax hide? Before she could decide, one of the aliens pointed in their direction. They had been spotted. Sarah's mind raced. This was it, the moment when her adventure would take a new turn. She didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was certain. Whatever came, she and Zax would face it together. As the aliens started moving towards them, Sarah stood tall. With Zax by her side, she was ready to face whatever the galaxy had in store for them. Their unlikely alliance was about to shock the universe. Sarah and Zax stood side by side as the alien group approached. Sarah's heart raced, but she felt braver with her massive friend beside her. The aliens stopped a few meters away, their eyes wide with surprise. One alien stepped forward. It was tall and slender, with blue skin and 4 arms. It spoke, and to Sarah's amazement, she could understand it. The alien was using a translation device. "Human, we are the Galactic Council. We detected your crash and came to rescue you," the alien said. Then it looked at Zax and added, "Step away from that beast. It's dangerous." Sarah felt Zax tense beside her. She put a hand on its scaly side to calm it. "No, you don't understand. Zax is my friend. He's intelligent and kind." The aliens murmured among themselves, clearly shocked. The leader spoke again. "Impossible. That creature is a Vorax, the deadliest predator in the galaxy. It can't be friendly." Sarah stood her ground. "Well, he is. Zax has been protecting me and teaching me about this planet. We formed a bond." The alien leader's expression changed from surprise to concern. "This is unprecedented. We must report this to the Council immediately." Over the next few hours, Sarah explained everything to the aliens. She told them about the crash, her first encounter with Zax, and how they had learned to communicate and work together. The aliens listened with a mix of fascination and disbelief. As night fell, the alien leader, who introduced himself as Stan, invited Sarah to their ship. "We need to discuss this situation further," he said. "The alliance between a human and a Vorax could have huge implications for the galaxy." Sarah looked at Zax, who nodded as if understanding. "Okay," she said to Xan, "but Zax comes too." Inside the ship, Sarah saw amazing technology beyond her wildest dreams. Holograms flickered, showing star maps and alien worlds. In the center of the main room, a large screen came to life. Faces of different alien species appeared, all looking curiously at Sarah and Zax. San addressed the screen. "Honored council members, we have a situation. This human, Sarah Chen, has formed an alliance with a Vorax." The reaction was immediate. Some aliens gasped. Others shouted in disbelief. One stern-looking alien with tentacles for a beard spoke up. "This is troubling news. If humans can tame the Vorax, they could become the most powerful species in the galaxy. This cannot be allowed." Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Tame? You don't understand. I didn't tame Zax. We're friends, equals. We help each other." But the council wasn't listening. They were too busy arguing among themselves. Sarah heard phrases like "threat to galactic balance" and "humans must be contained." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. San rushed to a control panel. "We're under attack," he shouted. The ship rocked violently. Through the windows, Sarah saw other ships appearing out of nowhere. They were firing weapons at San's ship. "It's the Shadowclaw Empire," San explained quickly. "They must have intercepted our transmission. They've been trying to weaponize the Vorax for years. If they learn about you and Zax, they'll stop at nothing to capture you both." Sarah's mind raced. In just a few hours, she had gone from being lost on an alien planet to being at the center of a galactic conflict. She looked at Zax, who was growling at the attacking ships. "What do we do?" Sarah asked San. San looked grim. "We have no choice. We must escape and keep you and Zax safe until we can convince the Council that your alliance is not a threat." As the ship shook with another blast, Sarah realized her adventure had taken a dangerous turn. She and Zax were now fugitives, caught between a fearful galactic council and a ruthless empire. Sarah took a deep breath and nodded to Xan. "Okay, let's go. But remember, Zax and I are a team. Whatever happens, we face it together." Zax rumbled in agreement. As San's ship darted away from the attackers and jumped to light speed, Sarah held onto her alien friend. They were about to embark on the biggest adventure of their lives, one that would change the fate of the entire galaxy. Sand's ship zoomed through space, leaving behind the angry red flashes of the Shadowclaw Empire's weapons. Inside, Sarah held onto Zax for support as the ship shook. Alarms blared and lights flashed. "We've lost them for now," Sand said, his four hands flying over the controls. "But they'll be back. We need a plan." Sarah's mind raced. She looked at Zax, who seemed surprisingly calm despite the chaos. An idea struck her. "Zan, you said the Shadowclaw Empire has been trying to weaponize the Vorax, right? What if we use that against them?" Zan's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" "We could spread the word that I can communicate with the Vorax. It might make them hesitate to attack us directly," Sarah explained. Zax growled softly, as if agreeing. San nodded slowly. "It's risky, but it might buy us some time. We need to find a safe place to hide and plan our next move." The ship's computer beeped. A holographic map appeared, showing a small green planet. "That's Verdana," San said. "It's a neutral world, known for its dense jungles. We might be able to hide there." As they approached Verdana, Sarah gasped. The planet was beautiful, covered in swirling greens and blues, but their wonder was short-lived. As soon as they entered the atmosphere, red lights started flashing on the control panel. "We've been hit," San shouted. "The Shadowclaw must have damaged our engines during the attack. We're going down." The ship plummeted towards the jungle below. Sarah held onto Zax tightly as San fought with the controls. Trees rushed up to meet them. With a deafening crash, the ship plowed through the canopy and slammed into the ground. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then Sarah heard Zax's low growl. She opened her eyes to see her friend nudging her gently. "I'm okay," she said, sitting up slowly. She looked around. The ship was a wreck, but they were alive. San groaned from the pilot's seat. "Is everyone all right?" he asked, his voice shaky. "We're fine," Sarah replied, helping San up. "But we need to get out of here. The Shadowclaw will be looking for us." They grabbed what supplies they could and left the crashed ship. The jungle was thick and humid. Strange bird-like creatures called from the trees, and the ground squelched under their feet. As they walked, Sarah noticed Zax was acting strangely. The Vorax kept sniffing the air and looking around alertly. "What is it, buddy?" Sarah asked. Suddenly, Zax growled and pushed Sarah and San behind a large tree. Just in time, a beam of energy shot past where they had been standing. "Shadowclaw scouts," San whispered. "They must have followed our crash." Sarah's heart raced. They were trapped in an alien jungle, being hunted by an evil empire. But as she looked at Zax, she realized they had an advantage. "Zax knows this kind of environment," she said. "He can help us escape." Zax nodded, as if understanding. The Vorax began to move silently through the undergrowth, indicating for Sarah and San to follow. They crept through the jungle, Zax's keen senses alerting them to danger before it could find them. As they moved, Sarah's mind worked overtime. They needed more than just escape. They needed a way to prove to the galaxy that her bond with Zax wasn't a threat. An idea began to form. "San," she whispered as they crouched behind a fallen log, "does your ship have any way to broadcast a message across the galaxy?" Zan looked surprised. "Yes, there's an emergency beacon, but using it would give away our position." Sarah nodded. "I know, but I have a plan. We're going to show the galaxy exactly what Zax and I can do together." Just then, Zax growled softly. Through the trees, they could see a Shadowclaw ship landing in a clearing. Scary-looking aliens with sharp claws and glowing red eyes emerged, carrying big guns. "Okay," Sarah said, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "Here's what we're going to do." As she outlined her plan, San's eyes grew wider and wider. It was dangerous, crazy even. But it just might work. And if it did, it would change the galaxy forever. Sarah looked at Zax, who rumbled in agreement. Together, human and Vorax prepared to face their greatest challenge yet, The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and their unlikely friendship was about to be put to the ultimate test. Sarah, Zax, and Texan crouched in the thick jungle, watching the Shadowclaw soldiers search for them. Sarah's heart was racing, but her mind was clear. She knew what they had to do. "Okay," Sarah whispered, "here's the plan. San, you'll sneak back to the ship and get the emergency beacon ready. Zax and I will create a distraction." San looked worried. "But the Shadowclaw soldiers are everywhere. How will you distract them without getting caught?" Sarah smiled and patted Zax. "We have a few tricks up our sleeve. Or should I say, up Zax's scales." As San carefully made his way back to the crashed ship, Sarah turned to Zax. "Ready for some teamwork, buddy?" Zax rumbled softly in response. Sarah and Zax moved through the jungle, using the skills they had learned together. Sarah's small size allowed her to slip through narrow spaces, while Zax's strength cleared paths when needed. They made a perfect team. They approached the clearing where the Shadowclaw ship had landed. Sarah whispered to Zax, "Okay, big guy, time to show off a bit." Zax understood. He let out a massive roar that shook the trees. The Shadowclaw soldiers jumped in surprise, their weapons pointed towards the sound. But Zax was already moving, crashing through the undergrowth to another spot. Sarah grinned. Their plan was working. The soldiers were confused, unsure if they were dealing with one Vorax or many. She quickly moved to a new position and used her emergency whistle to make a high-pitched sound. The soldiers spun around, now completely disoriented. "It's a trap," one of them yelled. "The human must be controlling multiple Vorax." Meanwhile, San had reached the ship. He found the emergency beacon and started to set it up, his hands shaking with nerves. "Hurry, Sarah," he muttered. Back in the jungle, Sarah and Zax continued their elaborate dance of distraction. Zax would roar from one direction, then Sarah would make noise from another. The Shadowclaw soldiers were running in circles, shooting at shadows. Suddenly, Sarah heard a familiar hum. The emergency beacon was ready. She looked at Zax and nodded. It was time for the grand final. Sarah stepped into the clearing, her hands raised. The soldiers immediately pointed their weapons at her. "Stop right there, human," their leader shouted. "Wait," Sarah called out. "Before you do anything, there's something you should see." She turned to the jungle and whistled. Zax burst into the clearing. The soldiers gasped, expecting the Vorax to attack. But instead, Zax gently nuzzled Sarah, then stood protectively by her side. The soldiers were stunned. Their leader lowered his weapon slightly, confused. What is this?" he asked. Sarah spoke loudly and clearly, knowing her words were being broadcast across the galaxy. "This is the truth. Zax isn't a weapon. He's my friend. We've learned to work together, to understand each other. And if we can do it, anyone can." She placed her hand on Zax's side. "The Vorax aren't mindless beasts to be used as weapons. They're intelligent, kind, and capable of friendship. The galaxy doesn't need to fear them. We can learn from them." The Shadowclaw soldiers looked at each other, unsure what to do. Their whole mission was based on the idea that the Vorax were dangerous weapons. But here was a human, standing unharmed next to one. Suddenly, the sky lit up with multiple ships entering the atmosphere. The Galactic Council had arrived, drawn by the emergency beacon. As the council ships landed, Sarah stood tall next to Zax. She knew that what happened next would change the course of galactic history. But whatever came, she and Zax would face it together. The council members emerged from their ships, their eyes wide as they saw Sarah and Zax standing side by side. The Shadowclaw soldiers, still in shock, made no move to fight. Sarah took a deep breath. This was their chance to show the galaxy the truth. She looked at Zax, who rumbled encouragingly. Together, they stepped forward to meet their destiny. The jungle clearing was tense with anticipation. Sarah and Zax stood side by side, facing the shocked members of the Galactic Council and the confused Shadowclaw soldiers. San emerged from the crashed ship, joining Sarah and Zax. The leader of the Galactic Council, a tall alien with shimmering purple skin, stepped forward. "Human Sarah Chen," he said, his voice filled with a mix of awe and concern. "You have caused quite a stir in our galaxy." Sarah took a deep breath. This was her chance to change everything. "I know I have," she said, her voice strong and clear. "But what you're seeing here is not a threat. It's an opportunity." She placed her hand on Zax's side. The Vorax rumbled softly, a sound of comfort and support. "Zax and I have formed a bond that many of you thought was impossible. We've learned from each other, protected each other. We're proof that different species can work together, no matter how different they seem." The council members murmured among themselves. The Shadowclaw leader, still holding his weapon but looking unsure, spoke up. "But the Vorax are the deadliest predators in the galaxy. How can we trust them?" Sarah smiled. "Let me show you." She turned to Zax and nodded. The massive creature lowered itself, allowing Sarah to climb onto its back. The aliens gasped. "Zax and I trust each other completely," Sarah explained. "And this trust has made us both stronger. Imagine what could happen if we extended this trust throughout the galaxy." The council leader stepped closer, fascination replacing fear in his eyes. "What are you proposing, Sarah Chen?" "A new way forward," Sarah said. "Instead of fearing the Vorax or trying to use them as weapons, we should be learning from them. They're intelligent, loyal, and have amazing abilities. With the right approach, they could be invaluable allies to all species." San spoke up, supporting Sarah. "It's true. I've seen firsthand what Sarah and Zax can accomplish together. It's incredible." The clearing was silent for a moment, as everyone considered Sarah's words. Then, surprisingly, one of the Shadowclaw soldiers stepped forward. He lowered his weapon and looked at Sarah and Zax with wonder. I've spent my whole life fearing and trying to control the Vorax," he said. "But seeing you two together, it changes everything." Slowly, other Shadowclaw soldiers nodded in agreement. Their leader, seeing this, made a decision. He put down his weapon and turned to the council. "We were wrong," he admitted. "The human has shown us a better way." The council leader looked at Sarah, then at the Shadowclaw leader, then back at Sarah. A slow smile spread across his face. "Sarah Chen," he said, "I believe you may have just brought peace to our galaxy." Over the next few hours, an incredible change swept through the clearing. Council members, Shadowclaw soldiers, and even a few curious Vorax who had been drawn by the commotion, all began to interact. Sarah and Zax moved among them, demonstrating their bond and teaching others how to approach the Vorax with respect and openness. As the suns of Verdana began to set, casting a golden glow over the scene, the council leader approached Sarah again. "We have made a decision," he said. "We would like to invite Earth to join the Galactic Council. And we want you, Sarah Chen, to be the ambassador." Sarah's eyes widened. "Me? But I'm just an explorer." The council leader shook his head. "You're much more than that. You're a bridge between species. You've shown us all a new way to coexist." Sarah looked at Zax, who rumbled happily. She smiled. "We accept, on one condition. Zax comes with me as co-ambassador. We're a team." The council leader laughed. "I wouldn't have it any other way." As night fell on Verdana, preparations began for the journey back to Earth. Sarah knew that explaining everything to her own people would be a challenge, but with Zax by her side, she felt ready for anything. She looked up at the stars, thinking about the incredible journey that had brought her here. A simple exploration mission had turned into an adventure that changed the galaxy. As Zax nuzzled her gently, Sarah smiled. The greatest adventure, she realized, was just beginning.